Let me quickly run you through top stories making headlines on the front page of the Vanguard. In case you're just joining us, this is Cool Digest Tuesday. 100 killed as Boko Haram hits Yobe, Borno. The riders here burns down mobile police base, churches. Others attack barbaric hyenas, says Yobe governor as residents flee. Suspected insurgents bomb Ekiti prison, free inmates. You get details of that on page 11 if you care to check. The front page picture here shows tanker drivers ignore Jonathan Fashola, and the horror continues. Traffic horror caused by tankers and other articulated trucks along Oshodi-Apapa Expressway continued, and this picture was taken yesterday. To other stories on the front page of the Vanguard this morning, don't blame Jonathan for failing crude price. Devaluation details on page 44. Compel Tambuwa to vacate seat. PDP tells court, that's on page 8. And to other stories on the back page of the Vanguard. For some sports now, Brahimi beats Inyama to BBC African Player of the Year award. But you and I know who is indeed the African player in Nigeria. Cry baby. Yama, what a picture to show and tell the story. Ballon d'Or, Ronaldo, Messi or newer, page 60. I'm too old for under 23, Yakin. Bayelsa United goalkeeper Kazim Yakin has said that he cannot be part of the Nigeria under 23 team because he's overage. Wow, that's good news. Nigerian player being quite honest there. And Ajaw Sand Eagles will retain Copa Lagos trophy, page 61 of the Vanguard. Let's move quickly away from there to finding out top stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning. The big one here says Boko Haram evades Yobe. Yobe capital targets government house. The riders fires on Air Force jet. Army repels attack. And female suicide bombers kill 6 in Maiduguri. The front page picture shows one of the victims of last Friday's blast in Kano, with the Vice President Ahmad Sambo, and also being accompanied by the Kano State Governor Rabi Kwankwaso when Sambo visited victims at the Kano General Hospital on Monday. Naira slides to 184 against dollar. Amazingly terrific. That's on page 35 rather. On the Punch, OAU students clash over Jonathan's visit, pages 4 and 5. And gunmen attack Ekiti prison, kill warder, 20 dogs, page 12 of the Punch. Although the controller of prison yesterday informed our correspondents present that no casualty was recorded. Federal government stops U.S. from training Nigerian soldiers, page 7 of the Punch. And then we have other stories on the front page of the Nation this morning. 14 reasons why Jonathan must go now by senators. The writers here says lawmakers to give Mark impeachment request. The allegations are listed here, from failure to curtail Boko Haram insurgency to reduction of presidency to international ridicule with the abduction of 200 Chibok girls, unduly politicizing the security situation, failure to act as de facto president, refusal to sign 120 bills, no accountability on missing $10.8 billion missing from the Federation account, squandering of 10 billion naira on private jets. We have sloppiness, failed governors, violation of the Constitution, oath of office, failure to implement recommendations of panels, committees, and the list goes on and on. The front page picture here shows some level of agony. It's a woman believed to have lost her husband in the attack being led away by sympathizers yesterday. I was going to ask Rashid if he can confirm the details of this story to us, because we heard in that video when the controller of prison actually said that no casualty was recorded. Gunmen attack Ado Ekiti prison, officer killed, 49 freed. To other stories on the front page of the Nation, confusion as Boko Haram bombs 2 state capitals. Yobe imposes 24-hour curfew, women bombers kill 5, Sambo in Kano. And finally, on the front page of the Nation, Lagos APC clears 12 for governor, page 8. AMR loses African award, page 63. Brent crude price drops below $70. You get details on page 11 of the Nation. The PDP went ahead yesterday to conduct its primaries into the Houses of Assembly. We brought you details from Adamawa, and the APC postponed its primaries to today just by one day in solidarity and sympathizing with victims of the Kano bomb blast. Of course, there was another attack yesterday. The big question is, how long more are we going to keep postponing events as a result of this disaster? Well, it's been 4 attacks in 4 days in Nigeria. It kick-started in Kano, it happened in Shani, and then yesterday it was Damaturu and as well as Maiduguri, 2 state capitals attacked by suspected Boko Haram. I still have Bola Oba right here with me on the show. Thank you very much for staying the course today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity once again, my friend.
The developing stories talked about how federal government has now cancelled training of Nigerian soldiers by the U.S. Now, I'm going to read an excerpt to you from one of the sources that this particular newspaper was able to speak with. And he says that Nigeria is facing a more pressing problem now. We need weapons to combat Boko Haram and not training. The Americans are supplying weapons and assisting the Iraq to fight ISIS. But they're talking of training here. Is Nigeria not facing the same threat as Iraq that they are assisting? What we need are weapons and not training. Our security personnel have all the training they required. What are your reactions to this latest development?
I think it shows the intellectual laziness of the people in leadership in this country. The greatest asset with which you fight any war on the face of the earth is the human capital or the human asset. And somebody who has experience in this particular area wants to give you training free of charge, and because they are refusing to sell arms to you for human rights reasons. You know, for human rights reasons, you are snubbing a golden opportunity to have your personnel developed in a strategic area that is directly related to your security. We live in a country of fools, to be honest with you, and we are being governed by the best of the fools. Look, Gowon had the temerity to come out and say the United States did the same thing, during the Nigerian Civil War, and so America is not our friend. But Gowon should remember historically that some people were killed in the north. A pogrom was committed against a sizable chunk of this country. And when they were killed, the majority of those people moved to their region. And when they moved to their region, as a result of his mismanagement of their body, the constitutional conferences that were held then, their buri, this thing, eventually we got to war. Majority of the people who were killed in the north, who moved back to their region, and who wanted to secede from Nigeria were Catholics. The Catholic lobby just emerged then after JFK's presidency in America, and they had the ears of American congressmen. So America refused to sell you people guns then because they didn't want you. Catholic Americans made their lawmakers not to let America sell you people guns so that you will not use it to kill Igbos who are mainly Catholics. It's only here that you people don't have anything you believe in. The only common denominator that you people believe in is money, and you will chase money. So Gowon, who squandered the golden opportunity to make the best of this country, pretending to be pacifist and a prayerist now.
Let's look at the reasons why the United States is not selling arms to Nigeria.
In 1960-something,
are there not also human rights violation in Iraq?
My brother,
this is the same United States that has postulated that Nigeria would divide by 2015. Don't all of this add up at this time?
One thing I have learned as an entrepreneur, until I got it, I never did well in my life. When you start pointing accusing fingers to others for your own failure, you will never progress. The failure is within us, Nigeria.
Isn't that exactly what the federal government is doing at this time?
Let them
bringing the solution back home without foreign interference.
Let them know. Let them keep doing it the way they are doing it now. We are seeing the result. Somebody who has a strategic advantage over you in a particular area wants to develop the greatest asset. The greatest asset anywhere. Haven't you noticed that resource-rich countries are countries that don't do well, and human capital developed countries are countries that are doing well in the face of the earth? How many resources do countries like Japan have? And they are doing well. But you fools have everything here.
Look at this. The first two phases of the training were conducted between April and August 2014. And the U.S. is also noting
Don't bring America into it. This
just a minute, Bola. The U.S. is also noting that it had provided untrained civilian personnel with basic soldiering skills. What impact has this had thus far? This is the third phase that the council, Bola Oba, they have done two phases. What impact has it had on the fight against terrorism in Nigeria?
You know what? You know what? If it gladdens you people, snub it.
Why are you differentiating? Why are you separating yourself from Nigerians? Who are you people? Are we not both Nigerians?
Because your leadership is totally irresponsible.
So that
is your citizenship. Where I'm seated now, my belief is that whoever took that decision is trying to pander to the Nigerian public, and leadership is not about pandering to the Nigerian public. I take decisions every day, and what is the important decision making is the strategic direction of what you want to achieve. Look, I say I want to give you, you are the beggar. You are the beggar. I say I want to give you money. You say you don't want. Who is missing something?
Have we not also identified that Boko Haram is a local problem in Nigeria, and then that leadership must be able to look inward to address this particular challenge, which is peculiar and different from the way it's been handled in other areas of the world? But we must also recall that everywhere that the United States has stepped in, would you say that they've actually recorded certain success? For instance, in Iraq.
If you want to discuss America, my brother, you don't have the time for it. If you want to discuss America, to be honest with you, because America is America. But what is I don't carry an American passport.
Okay.
My second passport is not American. My primary interest is here. I am one of the very few Nigerians who have a place I can run to anyway. I'm telling you, if you people mess it all up, I've run away from this country before, I can run away again. I ran away in my 20s.
That's very unpatriotic.
Oh, but my brother, I will say it to the face of your president. I will say it. I am one of the very few Nigerians. All my children carry foreign passports. I am not one who, if people get to a state of total discombobulation, I have an alternative. But you know what? There is something about the first water you drink on the face of the earth. There is something about the first water you drink on the face. You know what? If they really want to taste your ancestry now, it's just about picking something from your body and tasting it to the first water you drank on the face.
Just a minute. So Chuku always calls us first on this show. I wonder how you make it happen. But good morning, and go ahead with the contribution.
Good morning, my brother, Mr. Good morning, Mr. Bola.
Good morning.
Please, I want to believe that America cannot solve every problem. The idea, especially African countries, the idea that it is America or no other person, I think it's not right. Nigeria's problem when it has to do with terrorism this time around is very peculiar, has a very special situation. I don't think that it's America will solve it. I believe it is ourselves. That is why I'm also in the vanguard of state police, because we know ourselves better. If you check, the presence of America has not added any value. They have been in this country. There was this hue and cry of America come, and they have been here. In fact, since they have been here, consistent increase and rise in terrorism. So to me, I don't believe that America holds the solution. I'm totally in support of the termination of the program of them training our needs, because they have deserted us with their actions. They only cry, they only speak propaganda. We are fighting terrorism on paper, and the reality on ground was just otherwise. So I'm one of the Nigerians who support that America should be left out of this. Let's solve our own problem our own way. So that is my suggestion.
Chuku calling us from Anambra. Good to have you on the show. Always. You were talking about something about the first water someone drinks.
No, it tells you. Honestly. I'm one of actually. Look, as recently as a couple of weeks ago, I was still in Europe to do my medicals because I have alternative.
It's all right.
You know?
Yesterday, Boloba, something amazing happened. Boko Haram seemed to have taken their attacks to another level. And for the first time, we're hearing an attack on the capital towns of Maiduguri and Damaturu, of course, both of Borno and Yobe states. But they did not only stop there, they attacked police stations, a Nigerian Air Force jet. But let's quickly touch on the role of the Nigerian army, because oftentimes when we discuss these issues, we seem to talk ill of them. There are now reports that the army actually put up a fierce battle to avoid losing the seat of power to this insurgent. And indeed, Governor Ibrahim Gaidam later issued a statement to commend the gallantry of the soldiers for successfully defending the government.
I told you several years before that the problem is not with our boys. The problem is with the leadership of the army and the political leadership.
Okay.
The problem is not with, this is a volunteers army. People go to join the army because they believe that they have what it takes to. But if leadership is failing them, there's little you can do. But you see, yesterday was peculiar because the insurgents were attacking the capital cities, and they were also in one of the instances attacking the citadel of political power. And you know what politicians have perfected everywhere in the world is that the first line of protection comes to them. So they couldn't take the government house.
I was with the
and
APC.
They were taking cities, the second biggest city in Adamawa taken. It had to take the hunters. It took the hunters to retrieve Mubi, taking this thing. But you see, when they came to the capital, politicians knew well enough to defend themselves, and the soldiers were up to it because it was not impossible that after yesterday's encounter with the insurgents in the city of Damaturu, each soldier was given like 200,000 naira, and nobody will make news of that.
Can you confirm that?
I know how
on this platform
function.
Can you confirm that? If you can't confirm it with papers, then maybe we should just forget about that part for now. But then let's look at
the gallantry in defending the government house that was not in defending major cities. Other major cities that were taken. If you can't stop the logic, then you're a fantastic journalist.
Let's look at the impact of all of this on the proposal to extend emergency rule in 3 northeastern states at this very crucial time. But before that, let's take this call from Jimo. Good morning, Jimo. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead with the contribution, please.
I want to contribute to people are saying. Because,
right.
Okay. I said I want to contribute to what you people are saying. Because we don't have good leader in Nigeria. Because what is happening now, if as we were killing in Maiduguri, Yobe and some other areas, this thing happened to our leaders. I mean, if it happened to our leaders, what will be their reactions? Because they are killing people, and you say you are governing us. You're supposed to provide security. If any government is in position, if they cannot provide security, which means there's no government. Because this type of thing, we have not experienced this type of thing. I don't know why they are killing people unnecessarily in the north, and our government cannot do anything. Anything to it. So, government should find solution to this problem, because this problem, if there is not, it will escalate to other states.
It's all right, Jimo. Thank you very much for calling from Ilorin. I have to take your closing remarks now. We had challenges earlier, and we have to kickstart the next segment. But what are your thoughts as regards extending emergency rules in this part of Nigeria?
If we were to swap places with the parliamentarians and we grant the president the emergency rule that he needs, because come to think of it, I've not quite seen any difference the emergency rule, legislation has made, in the 3 times it's been done, if it were to be the parliamentarians. But unfortunately too, they were convoking, the members of the House of Reps were convoking to consider the issue of the emergency rule, and His Lordship, the Inspector General of Police, who is now an expert in interpreting constitutional provision, sent in people to go and be tear gassing them. So they suddenly remembered to tell the president that, you don't quite need the emergency rule, because there is a section of the constitution that says he has the powers to deploy military personnel to any part of the country in protecting the territorial integrity of Nigeria. But the difference with the emergency rule is that they claim that with the emergency rule, mischief makers can be attacked without the finesse and the niceties of the rule of law. But we have seen 1 year, eight months of it. The difference is in the deterioration.
Well, Oba, thank you very much for joining us today on Call Digest. We appreciate your presence and your time always.
Thank you for giving me the unsolicited break to go and sleep wisely.
We'll take a short break now and we'll find out other thoughts as regards the same issue. Don't go away, please.
Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on Digi360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.
You can now watch Core TV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to Core TV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click Core TV, leave a space, then News. Core TV News, a 24-hour news station.
Welcome back. I'm joined now by Akintoye Branko Rhodes, PDP governorship aspirant in Lagos State. Thank you very much for joining us today on Call Digest.
Thank you.
You've heard about the latest development as regards federal government cancelling training of Nigerian soldiers by the U.S. And there are reactions already if this is indeed the right step in the right direction at this crucial time.
Well, the question is, what has been the contribution of the U.S. Army training? What's been the impact and the relevance in the insurgency in Nigeria? I'm still wondering what we have benefited from the U.S. involvement in the whole Boko Haram episode that we've been experiencing. And therefore, I don't see the relevance of the U.S. Army right now.
But one would have thought that up-to-date training would be a good equipment at this time in the face of all these challenges.
Up-to-date training where there is willingness to train and impact.
The U.S. says that it has already concluded the first two phases of the training. And let me read to you, this is an excerpt from one of the representatives. He said, based on mutual assessment of the Nigerian Army and U.S. trainers, a third iteration of training was agreed upon with the intent of developing the battalion into a unit with advanced infantry skills. And now says, we regret the premature termination of this training as it was to be the first in a larger planned project that would have trained additional units with the goal of helping the Nigerian Army build capacity to counter Boko Haram.
Yes. Now, the statement says we regret. That means the cancellation came from the U.S.
No, it came from Nigeria, obviously. He said, this is what the U.S. is saying. He said, we regret the premature termination of this training.
Yes, and as I said, I would start from the premise that what have we benefited from the U.S. training? If they've done two parts of it, what's the impact on our army? Is it the training or is it the state of our military? In fact, that is a problem. That's where we should locate where the issues really are. I've been largely disappointed about the promises of the West when this insurgency thing began. And there were lots of promises, loud promises, but nothing has changed. Now, is the problem our training, or is it a problem of the commitment of our infant troops? where do we locate it?
Beyond all of this now, there are also questions of if the federal government or leadership at the top is being overwhelmed by this challenge of insurgency, because we've heard about quite a number of plans. We've heard about the Almojuris in northern Nigeria. We heard about civilian JTF. We've heard about the reintegration and, of course, compensating victims of these attacks. But then, just over the weekend, we had 4 attacks within 4 days. I was with the APC National Publicity Secretary on the show yesterday, who actually talked about the responsibility lying solely on the presidency. Just before you answer that, let's take this call from Adamu. Good morning, Adamu.
Good morning, sir.
Please go ahead with the contribution.
Hello.
Go ahead with the contribution, please.
Please, I would like to call on the government to please look into this issue critically and try and understand that the lives of Nigerians are more important than any other thing. Playing politics with lives of Nigerians is insignificant and counterproductive. You see, we have to realize that these terrorists that are causing havoc have no regard and respect for any resistance whatsoever, as we have just witnessed with the Peru bomb blast and the attacks on churches witnessed previously. So it is advisable that we as Nigerians come to understand that, have respect for each other, okay? And voice out our concerns. Call on the government. Just recently, I conducted my own research and found out that Nigerian army is now the number 5th army in the whole of Africa, which previously was the number 1. So what we have to understand is that we got it wrong in the sense that we thought democracy and having a strong army cannot exist side by side, which is wrong. The biggest democracy in the world today is also the world's superpower, military and economic and what have you. So we have to understand that having a strong army that can protect the territorial integrity and sovereignty and the lives of Nigerians is far more important than any political affiliation we may have. So we have to get it right.
Thank you very much for calling all the way from Sokoto. Would you say that the PDP-led government at this time has been overwhelmed by the Boko Haram insurgents?
Well, what I would say is that Boko Haram, I have always maintained, even on here, that it's a responsibility of all Nigerians to come together to fight Boko Haram. It's not a responsibility of the president or just the political elite. It is a responsibility of all Nigerians. We all have to come together. We have to take this seriously, and we have to combat Boko Haram for the sake of Nigerians and the survival of this nation. And I still maintain that we all have a role to play. We must have a discussion, a serious and honest discussion about protecting Nigeria and saving Nigerians. Only when we do that can we go forward as a nation.
The military obviously recorded some success yesterday by repelling the suspected Boko Haram insurgents from taking over the government house in one of the state capitals that were attacked yesterday. As a matter of fact, the governor, Ibrahim Gaidam, issued a statement to commend the gallantry of the soldiers for successfully defending the government house. Many have asked if the willpower is there with the Nigerian military, then we'll have a better success stories to tell.
Well, I have always maintained that it's a multi-layered problem, this Boko Haram thing. We find the worst atrocities committed on Nigeria by Nigerians under this Boko Haram disguise. But the truth is that the impact of Boko Haram is on Nigeria and Nigerians. And we owe a duty as Nigerians to fight for Nigeria. And, well, you said now that the governor was commending the gallantry of the army. The gallantry of the army is expected 24/7. not only because the government house is attacked,
That's right.
but Nigeria is being attacked. So we all have our expectations from our military. We expect the military to stand up and rise up to our defense as Nigerians, regardless of our religious convictions or interest. Now, that is where my problem lies. We have a government and Nigerian army that we believe in the integrity of Nigeria. But what is hindering the manifestation of their impact over this country?
Beyond all of that as well, there are also issues of proposing extending emergency rule in this state, especially as we count down to the 2015 elections. What are your thoughts along that line?
Well, I think if we have to talk about protection of lives, let's leave politics out of it. It's important that we safeguard these countries, that we protect the lives of Nigerians that live in those states.
But some have also questioned the how do I put it now, the success of the emergency rule in 1 year and 8 months thereabout.
The success of the government in the battle against Boko Haram has always been a question of concern for everybody. All well-meaning Nigerians, I'm sure, have been asking questions. I've been asking questions. Where exactly are we in this battle? And what is strengthening the Boko Haram against the Nigerian state?
Let me quickly take this call from Abuja. Good morning, Mohammed. How's Abuja this morning?
Abuja is at peace.
Please go ahead with the contribution.
I want to make a little contribution, please.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to... All right. If you are not in the far north or in the eastern part of Nigeria, you feel what you are saying is just a child's play. It is not.
Go ahead, please.
Now, I can tell you that the item that I saw. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Mohammed.
The last incident, the one in Kano, I have a friend that I lost a friend in that incident. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
I can tell you that the government of the day should be responsible enough. If the government cannot protect the lives of its citizens, then what are we talking about? These guys will walk into the mosque, they carry out this heinous attack, and before you know it, they were trapped. The mistake is made is, why do they have to lynch them? They were killed instantly. Now, the kind of dead bodies I saw, God, you see somebody's cloth, burnt on him. It is even the fire that, when you know what it is. I saw those things. I would have been crying, and I don't know who will listen to me. Look, until this thing gets to places like Abuja, is it when they will now feel it?
It's all right, Mohammed. That's how much time will permit us to take from you today. We have to round up now, but do you see all of this? The feeling is sober, especially for some who have felt this, for some who have had members of their families being victims of this attack, for hundreds of thousands and millions of Nigerians who are now probably...
misplaced Nigerians as well.
As well.
It's a serious problem that we're facing.
Do you see this impact on the 2015 election? Or the decisions of the people?
Really, circumstances like this are only determined by the opportunities thrown up within the polity. In this case, there were elections. But the reality is that this situation was brought upon Nigeria and Nigerians by the leadership, by the political leadership of this country. So are you going to trade I've always said about the pot calling the kettle black. So where do you locate this crisis in Nigeria? If it's a political leadership failure that we're experiencing.
What way forward, really, at this time? Just 1 minute.
The truth is that we Nigerians have to see Boko Haram insurgency as an attack on Nigerians, all Nigerians.
It means that the president himself must stop saying that this is an attack on him as a person.
It is Nigeria, and Nigerians must fight the battle for Nigeria. It's the only way forward.
Okay, Akitoye Branko Rhodes is a PDP governorship aspirant. I'm sure that you're still going to come back again, and I'm going to be asking the questions on how the PDP intends to win elections in a state that has been ruled by the APC for about 16 years now.
Yeah, the state that APC has misruled for the past 60 years.
Right. We have enough time to discuss all of that, but I'm excited that you also shared the same opinion with Alhaji Lai Mohammed yesterday, who talked about Nigerians beyond religious and
must rise up for the sake of this country.
Must join hands together
to fight this common enemy. It is the only way forward.
Boko Haram keeps bombing churches,
killing everybody.
He doesn't ask whether you're a card-carrying member of any political party.
It doesn't matter. Exactly. So we must all come together to fight Boko Haram.
It's all right. And that wraps us on the show today. Thank you very much for watching. I am Ifemi Oguntoye. Join us again tomorrow for another exciting edition. Don't forget, don't just talk the talk. Let's walk it out together.
Nigerians are expected to seek out the best. 2 words to describe the activity.
The Yoruba Unity Forum is conducting.
Be the first to know. From the north, south, east, west, and around Africa.
Presidential
We
ambition.
break the news.
Women in Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV Primetime
News, a 24-hour news station.